What's up, everybody? Some gamer chick here, and I have a new review. I went and I watched Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, the original and the remake today. So I just did this today. It's still fairly fresh in my mind. I just made this PowerPoint presentation for you all, and you know what? Let's just get into it. You guys saw my last video on the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or the remake. But let's get into my little PowerPoint. All right. I just really love that picture of Grumpy. All right. So the beginning of the movie, so the original kept it very simple. It had the little the text box or the text cards kind of explaining the what had happened and the fact that Snow White's stepmother dressed her in rags, had her do menial labor, that kind of thing. And it starts out where she's cleaning the steps, she's singing with the turtle doves, and she's making her wish in the wishing well about wanting to find true love, find her prince, that kind of thing. The remake added in a backstory where it's Snow White's learning to be a queen from her parents. She has a whole new thing where she's named Snow White because she was born in a winter storm, instead of the fact that she has ebony black hair, ruby red lips, and skin as white as snow. So they changed all of that. Personally, I like the beginning of the original a lot better than the new one. The new one just had so much going on with it, and then they're talking about how, like, her mom died, and then her dad was basically enchanted by the queen, and he goes off to war because of the queen, and never comes back. And there was just a lot going on. And one thing in writing that is pretty common that you hear a lot of people talk about is keep it simple, stupid. Um, the the original kept it very simple. It was very pretty and awesome. And when you meet the prince, he's just kind of like walking by and he hears her singing and he is attracted to the singing. He's just like, "Oh my, what a beautiful voice." And he goes and he starts singing to her, and she gets scared and she runs, and then she goes to the balcony and they're singing to each other again, and she gives like a kiss to the little turtle dove, and the turtle dove flies down and like transfers the kiss to him, and it's super cute and sweet. And there was nothing really like that in the remake. The remake has it to where the bandit is stealing food from the castle pantry. She catches him, and then he gets away, and then he gets caught, and the queen is like going to give him a harsher punishment, but she like talks her down into a less harsher punishment, but it's still bad. And then she goes and shows mercy to him and gives him some bread. I don't know. I much preferred this one. I did. I much preferred um this kind of like, oh, I'm attracted to her singing yada yada yada, that kind of thing. I much preferred this one. The huntsman scenes are a lot different. Um she's taken to like go pick wildflowers in the original, and then she goes to go pick apples in the remake. Um when the huntsman goes to like stab her, she screams and she's terrified and she covers her face, and he can't bring himself to kill something so defenseless, so innocent, and instead he urges her to run, and he's like, "Hey, the queen is trying to kill you. You need to run and go into the forest and just never return." And she can't believe that the queen would want to kill her. Like, she it's kind of that the believing in the good in people, that like that's kind of that's one of the themes that's kind of in the movie. It's not super pronounced, but you can tell that it's there. And in the remake, she goes, "Why?" And the huntsman basically just starts fighting with himself, like, "You need to go. Go, hurry before I change my mind." Blah, blah. And then yeah, it was kind of dumb. And after like he gives uh the queen the heart, in the scene where the queen asks who's the fairest of them all now, she doesn't believe the mirror at first when the mirror goes, Snow White is still the fairest of them all. And she's like, no, the huntsman gave me her heart. And the mirror goes, no, that is a pig's heart. And then that's when she gets mad and does like the whole goat turning into a crown, getting the poisoned apple, that kind of thing. And one thing that I will give the remake kudos on, actually no, I don't think the remake did it. Well, yeah, the remake did have the huntsman basically getting punished for that, and I will give it kudos on that, but it could have been done way better. Going to the next one, when running through the forest, the original shows like, so when she first drops down into this thing, this is how you see these, but then when she falls into the water, they look more like alligators or crocodiles or whatever you want to say. And that was very prevalent throughout the entire sequence, was you saw what they really were, but you also saw what she was perceiving them as, because she was so scared and alone and she didn't know what was going on. And the remake just basically had her girl bossing through it and completely unafraid, and it was just like, and it didn't show the hints that everything in the forest looked scarier than it actually was. And then at the end of the sequence, in the original, she's crying, she's alone, she's basically at rock bottom essentially, while in the remake, she's like staring down the deer, like staring it down. It was weird. Like, I was like, okay, that's kind of dumb. In the original, she actually sings to them and kind of goes, "No, I'm not gonna hurt you," and like it helps reduce her fear. It reduces the animals' fear. And then she starts asking them for help, because she's like, "Well, I can't burrow in the ground with like the rabbits. I can't climb up in the tree like the squirrels. A nest is too small for me." She goes, "Do you know of a place that I can sleep in?" And the animals are like, "Oh yeah, we know of a place," because they know where the dwarves live, and they lead her there. And in the remake, she stares down the deer, and all the animals come out and like show her to the dwarf's place. Like, it was really weird. And then when she gets to the dwarf's home, in the original, she's hesitant to answer. She knocks, she goes, "Is anybody home?" And then when nobody's answering, she goes in, and she sees that the place is just a mess. So her and the animals just like they clean up the place in the hopes that whoever is the seven children, as she assumes that they are, she cleans the place hoping that they will allow her to stay, and let her hide there from the queen. While in the remake, she just barges in, goes up to their rooms, and falls asleep. And then later, during the cleaning thing, it's after a fight between the dwarves, and she really doesn't help them clean at all in the remake. It's the dwarves cleaning, nobody's really helping them. And then it's the dwarves trying to convince her to stay the night instead of her trying to convince them to allow her to stay the night. I got Rachel Zegler's Snow White. I got a very conceited impression of Snow White. Um, when the dwarves come home, as I was saying, uh, it the original does like a parallel. So when they get home, they see that the lights are on, and they're like, "What's going on?" And they're actually kind of scared of what's going on, and it does the parallel of Snow White's run through the forest because it's concept that everything is scarier than what it actually is when you're afraid. Um and then Snow White plays the guessing game with like when they finally like kind of all calm down from the initial fear of, "Oh my god, there is a stranger in our house," which yeah, I would be pretty terrified of that as well. They did kind of have that in the remake, but it I don't think it was as well. Like I don't think they pulled it off as well as they think. But and then they introduce themselves while in the original Snow White guesses their names, and it's adorable, it's cute. It made me giggle, and I was laughing about that. Like I laughed more times during the original than I did during the remake for sure. Um they like in the remake they also got rid of the endearing way that Doc would speak. He would mix up words a lot, or mix up like the beginning letters of words to make it sound different. They made him in the remake, they made him sound like a smarty pants, and it was kind of weird. Like I was kind of missing the endearing way that he was talking in the original. And they took away the family dynamic of the dwarves. So when I was watching the original this morning, because I woke up, I watched the original. One of the notes that I made was Dopey gives the impression of a younger brother trying to imitate his older brothers. And you have this very close knit family dynamic with the dwarves. And in the remake, there's no closeness with them. Um, they argue. Dopey gets basically picked on because he doesn't speak, and uh, like they took away that family dynamic, and then they made Dopey the focus, like Snow White's focus, instead of Grumpy. In the original, Grumpy is the one that is hesitant to let Snow White stay. And the others, they're pretty quick to like, "Oh, it's just a girl, she needs help, let's help her." And Grumpy's like, "Nah, feminine wiles," that kind of thing. And it's really adorable. And in the remake, they're focusing on bringing Dopey out of his shell, getting him to talk, and all of that stuff. And Dopey was a mute in the original, but it wasn't like he wasn't able to communicate with people. Like he communicated in his own way, and it was really adorable and endearing. And I feel like they felt that that was a weakness for him, which it really wasn't when you watched the original. And they took away the back and forth between Grumpy and Snow White that was in the original. They took it away for the remake. So you don't see Snow White trying her hardest to kind of like get through Grumpy's defenses and be like, "I'm not gonna hurt you. I just want to be your friend." And they took that away, and it was really sad because it was adorable, it was endearing, and I loved it. And they took away the silly song. Like they had a little bit of it, but they got rid of like a whole 6-minute sequence and replaced it with all of the bandit BS, where it's just like, "Oh, we're fighting a rebellion," and then they have the bandits get there, and they saved that one bandit that she gave the bread to because he took a crossbow bolt for her. And all of that replaced the silly song sequence where they're singing, they're dancing, they're having fun, getting to know each other and just enjoying each other's company. And they lost a lot with that. But like just taking this entire thing and replacing it with all of the bandit stuff. Um like if I was going to be remaking this movie in a live action thing, I would have turned this, like the whole silly song, into kind of a montage of Snow White being with the dwarves for a week or so, and having it to where you're watching Snow White and Grumpy get closer and closer as friends. Um go through that entire thing, so that way when you get to like the sending off, like, and then you'd have the sending off to work, you'd have that in there, and you slowly see Grumpy open up to her and become her friend. Like they took away the sending off to the work sequence where you have Dopey he keeps coming back trying to steal a kiss from Snow White, and it was super adorable, and she's just like, no. She tilts his head back down and gives him the kiss on his forehead, and she forces a kiss on Grumpy, and it's so adorable. And this also included Grumpy warning her of the evil queen, like, don't let strangers in. That they'll try to lie to you, they'll try to hurt you, that kind of thing. And she's just like, oh, you do care. And it's so adorable. And the remake had none of this. Like, the remake had none of this heartwarming, uplifting stuff. And then, like, you go to, like, she's home alone, she's making a gooseberry pie, and she's making it specifically for Grumpy, though I think her original plan was probably to make one for each of them, but it showcases the Grumpy one because she is trying to become his friend. Like, the other ones, they became her friends pretty quickly, but, like, she's trying to get Grumpy to be her friend. And then between the original and the remake, the queen was actually much more persuasive in the original. In the remake, it was, you need to go, I'm here with news from Jonathan. You need to go help him. Here's an apple for sustenance along the way. Whereas in the original, it was, the queen is just like, oh, you're making pie, you should use these apples to make your pie. And this one right here, it's a special apple. It's a wishing apple. You make a wish and then you take a bite. And the animals are trying to warn Snow White of the danger that the queen is presenting. And she doesn't listen to them because it comes again to this, she's trying to see the good in people. And so the animals leave and they run to go get the dwarfs to come and help Snow White, because they know that the dwarfs would probably be able to talk her out of trusting the queen. So Grumpy leads the charge. He in the remake, they have Dopey be the one that, like, kind of figures out that the animals are pestering them to try to get them to go save Snow White. But in the original, it's Grumpy that figures it out first. He's the one who first realizes that the animals are trying to save Snow White. He's the one that goes, we've got to go get her. And he's the one that leads the charge. And they get there, they're too late to save her from it. And like, they're too late to save her, but they basically they chase her off from their home, and they chase her kind of into the mountains to a cliff edge. And it's a narrow passageway that they're chasing her down. And the queen tries to dislodge a large boulder to try and squish the dwarves. But while she's trying to do that, a bolt of lightning hits the ground at her feet, and it causes the cliff that she's on to crumble away, and she falls to her death. And that's how she dies in the original. And then after that, the dwarves, they make the glass coffin. Like, but in the remake, the queen is already gone. The dwarves get there. They put her on a boulder, and wait for Jonathan to get there because he's still in a dungeon trying to get out. Him and the huntsman get out. Um, I'm a little fuzzy on how they did it because I was the only one in the theater, and it was my attention span for the remake was it was not good, and I'm not gonna lie. Taking my notes, I was using my phone as like kind of like a flashlight, like the screen of it as a flashlight, and I was texting a friend. So I think I missed that part. Um, but yeah. Uh so they in the remake they sticker on a boulder and call it a day. In the original, they make a glass gold and gold coffin for her because they cannot bring themselves to bury such beauty. Um and then like all the animals and the dwarves leave flowers around it, and Grumpy is the last one to place his flowers, and he places them directly on her hands. And then you get like the text card saying that the prince has heard of a princess sleeping in a glass coffin, and he comes to smooch her. There was no weird uprising where Snow White gets the guards to turn on the queen by remembering their names and their former jobs. And there's no the queen just getting angry and storming off to her mirror and smashing it with her little scepter thing and dying or whatever. And then there's no like the end sequence in the remake was really weird. I don't understand why there was just so much white. And then they reiterate that the people who remade the movie felt that there was something wrong with Dopey in the original because they had him be the one that's like reading, like telling the story to some people at the end of the movie. And it was just, I don't know, like I think making Dopey talk took away from him as a character. Taking away Doc's kind of endearing way that he talks and making him into a smarty pants took away from his character. Taking away Grumpy's character arc in the movie, it took away from his character. They focused on all of these other things, but when you actually watch the original, most of the movie takes place between Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. That's why it's called Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. And they took away everything that made the movie so heartwarming and endearing, and it just fills you with those feel good emotions. Like watching the original was the first thing I did this morning, and I don't know, after watching it I just felt great about the day. I felt so great about the day. And I mean, I pulled up my pocket TCG and I pulled some new cards. I got a shiny Charmander in there. It was awesome. I was at Walmart and I saw that they were selling these like strawberry things where you like get the roots and then you plant them, and then yeah, and I've been wanting to plant strawberries on my porch since I moved into my house. And I was like, you know what? Today's the day. So after the movie, I actually went back to Walmart, got some potting soil cuz it's a attached porch pot thingy majig on my porch, and that's where I wanted to plant the strawberries. I got the strawberries, ended up not getting enough dirt, so I had to go back to had to go back out and go to Lowe's to get that. And like after watching the original, my day just felt like it was better. And going to watch the remake afterwards, it was like it put a storm cloud on my day, and it didn't feel good. But yeah, it was the there were so many times in the original where I would just be laughing and giggling and chuckling to myself while I'm sitting here like a loser at my computer watching it. And in the movie theater, I was the only one in there, and there was so many times where I'm like, well, that's just stupid. That's dumb. What the fuck is that? Like, I wasn't laughing or giggling and feeling just good about my day watching the movie. It felt like a rain cloud on my day after watching that movie. So when I got home, instead of getting all of this done, I actually just went ahead and planted my strawberries. And yeah, well, I'm now at the rambling. But yeah, this movie, it is definitely worse than Dragon Ball Evolution. I'm gonna say it. It is the remake is worse than Dragon Ball Evolution. The original, fantastically better. If you watch it first thing in the morning, you're probably gonna end up with a great day, like I did. It was awesome. But anyway, thank you. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you've made it this far. And don't forget to check out my books. I will leave a link in the description below. Hopefully my strawberries start kind of like taking root and doing good, and I will definitely like at the end of each of my videos I will start trying to put update pictures on my strawberries. But that is everything, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed this. Like, comment, subscribe, check out my books. I will leave a link in the description. And you know what? Have a wonderful day. If you haven't watched the original, definitely give it a watch. I honestly hadn't watched it till today. I was always a Lion King girl. And yeah, have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.